John Raneri, welcome to the Single Track Podcast.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
I saw one of your recent Instagram posts, which started with the quote, "I find new beginnings are exciting," and it's relating to your entrance into the ultra trail running scene. And maybe talk about that for a bit, because when I think of somebody of your caliber, there can be many reasons for making the switch, or at least dabbling. It could be because of, you've hit a ceiling at a certain event, or you're just curious. So I'm curious, what's your standpoint in all this?
Yeah. Honestly, my mantra for every new season is it's a new beginning. It's a new opportunity. Whether or not I just ran a marathon or raced a marathon or raced a half or, race a series of 5Ks. For me, it's always a new beginning. It's always a new opportunity to get better and progress and to accept new challenges and hopefully to succeed in the process. For me specifically, though, I mean, the ultra was kind of a no-brainer. I'm exceptionally good at going to dark places, and I can go to some very, very dark places. So for me, for me, this is the perfect fit, at least for this season right now. I'm coming off the marathon of my life. I had a really good result and I know I have more in me in that event. Like, my ceiling is much higher. But I view the season as just an exploration into the longer distances and to see what I can truly do and to truly challenge myself over the marathon plus distances.
So if I heard you right there, are you envisioning this race at Black Canyon to be one of many more ultras in your career, or are you just testing the waters?
Both.
Okay.
Both. I mean, I'm very unproven at the distance. I will be the first one to admit that. I can tell you I've run more than 100 mile weeks in my lifetime, probably, but I haven't run anything over 50 kilometers, past a practice run. So, I'm very unproven at that distance, and it's quite humbling to be in a new atmosphere, to be honest. It's like, I don't think that the ultra gets enough credit sometimes as it really deserves, because it's a whole nother system and like your body's being challenged in this, this way different way than if you were racing a marathon. Yeah, sure. Your heart rate's lower, but you're keeping that for 50K, 50 miles, 100K, 100 miles. And that's super challenging on the body physically and mentally. So yeah, man, it's super exciting.
I love that you said earlier that you are exceptionally good at going to dark places, because I think that's a hallmark of a great potential ultra runner. I think that there's a certain point in these races where the physical portion becomes less important than the mental ability to overcome just everything that happens from 50K onwards. So that's cool. I think I'm curious, what do you know about our sport so far? Are there any people you've had conversations with, any people you follow on social media? What's your knowledge?
Yeah. So, my knowledge, if I'm being honest, is probably pretty limited.
Okay.
I do follow a few folks. And I am familiar with a handful of people in the sport.
Okay.
I've been lucky to get some really good advice. When I reached out to Jamil Corey, and I was like, hey, I want to run Black Canyon. He connected me with a bunch of great people, and I was able to get a wealth of knowledge from that. I believe I talked to Nick Corey a bit, and he kind of ran me through what some of the splits were going to look like at Black Canyon and what people have done in the past. I talked to True Heart a bit, and that was exciting just to kind of get his perspective on it. Because he just literally took it from the lead and just ran that whole thing from the gun last year. So that was really cool. I can vibe with that for sure. Most recently I talked to Reed, Coolsat, and he actually, reached out after I posted, on February 1st. And yeah, he was, really cool and gave me some, really, really, like really, like sound advice, and like maybe some things I didn't consider before. Besides that, I'm a big fan of Adam Peterman. I actually kind of know him from college, and I think it's so cool how he's just excelled in the sport so much.
Yeah.
I know of Jim Walmsley. Like I think I met him once. So I wouldn't say that I know him, but I mean, he's obviously, like he's obviously, an exceptional face in the sport as well too. I don't know. So for me, I feel like I want to find my niche kind of wherever it is in the ultra distances. And there's people who are, like exceptionally good at downhill courses, exceptionally good at uphill courses, are better on pavement, are better on trail, are better on the technical climbs. And for me, I'm just trying to figure out where I am and seeing where I can develop from there.
I know this is early days and, you haven't even run the race yet, but do you have a sense of whether you could be a better ultra trail runner than road marathoner?
I don't know. I mean, I really like running and like, I like running long distances. And I really enjoy that. Like for me, that's, one of my passions. And I'm like, we'll see. I mean, like I have quite a bit of speed too. So like I'm able to cover the half in a pretty quick time. And like my marathon's not too bad right now. And my mile speed is decent and my 3K speed is decent. I mean, the argument is, can I actually keep that for a mile or a 3K? Because I'm not actually trained for that event. But I certainly have tools in my toolbox, which I can use for the longer events. And that could be my biggest benefit or my biggest detriment. So if I complement that with more endurance work, we'll see. Who knows?
I love the list of people you rattled off that you've spoken to. Reed, Nick, Trueheart. It's a great list.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's just kind of a drop in the bucket, man. I'm like, I've spoken to others too, and I'm just trying to recollect it right now. But yeah, it's honestly like a bit overwhelming because it's cool to see all this support of just being like, hey, like you could actually be pretty good at this. And like, I'm a pretty confident guy, but I mean, I know when other people are reaching out and saying, hey, like this is something that you could be really good at, really means a lot to me. And like, that tells me a lot about the community that I'm actually trying to, vibe with right now. So, yeah.
One thing I'm curious about, there's been a fair number of guys in the last 5 to 10 years that have entered the sport in that 2:11 to 2:13 range of road marathoning times. And I think a fair number of them, when they first got into the sport, their hypothesis was that they could just extend that road marathoning directly into a race like Black Canyon and find success. And I think the results have been somewhat mixed, but what's been your philosophy about preparation for this race? Are you trying to follow that playbook or have you been trying more specific stuff?
Actually, I've been dropping quality, to be honest. So I've been doing one quality session a week, and I've actually dropped mileage from my marathon build. I was up to 135, 137 for my peak week training for CIM. So my strategy has really been, all right, like get in multiple 20 plus long runs per week. We've actually done some pretty crazy doubles too. Like I've done like 20 and 10, and I've done a 24 and 12 on some days, an average about 6-minute pace for each of those things. So, and like for me, like I see it as like a 3-tiered system. I see it as, okay, am I managing my heart rate? Am I managing my effort? Am I managing my pace? Like, what does that look like? Like on that specific terrain. And again, for Black Canyon, it could look much different than a lot of the miles that I've run so far in training. So I'm just keeping an open mind, and I'm going to adjust as well as I can on that day. Second is going to be the nutrition concept. And I think I had that down pat. I mean, I'm able to get in 700, 800 calories during a marathon at like a really high intensity. So for me, fueling isn't that much of an issue. And 3, my biggest weakness is probably hydration. And I know that with the rising temperatures at Black Canyon, that can be an issue and has been an issue with runners in the past. So I view that as those are the aspects of training that I've been working on. And I think I've been doing a fairly decent job at them.
I want to point out one run that you did a couple weeks back.
Yeah,
it was a 3-hour and change 50K with 2K of climbing, 5:53 average pace. I guess it was a PR, but you said that the effort felt sustainable well past 50 miles.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Talk more about that.
I mean, yeah, man, I feel like I've always been really, really like good at endurance work. And like that's just been in my wheelhouse. So for me, when I was running that 50K, it just felt like I was cruising. I mean, sure, like my legs were tired and, you know, like I was able to take in fuel and, you know, like I hydrated well, but I mean, like, honestly, like I felt like, I don't know, like maybe that was 100K effort on a really, really good day, but I know I could have, I mean, like, I know that I could have like replicated that for another 40 or 45K. I think the biggest limiting factor for me would have been obviously how would my legs feel after 70 or 80K running that pace. So that's probably my biggest detriment right now is aerobically, I can go fast for a very long time, but I also really know that I don't have the wear and tear on my body to really experience anything past that 50K or 55K mark.
You train with McKirdy, from what I understand. Can you talk
Yes.
about what your coaches and team think about this move?
I mean, they think I'm crazy. I mean, like I've always made somewhat of a psychotic decision sometimes with training, and then like they definitely think it is. I mean, but they're also really supportive and they're really cool about it, and like they know my personality, and I go for like things that are. I mean, like, I don't know, like, I mean, like, I try to like punch above my weight. I mean, like, I always like to find challenges that are going to be unique and that are going to push me forward in the right direction as an athlete. And I think this is the perfect fit for me and my athlete, you know, and I would say like my teammates are super supportive of that. And like McKirdy's all over it, man. Like he's loving it. Yeah, like he's, you know, like really, you know, like digging the whole, ultra thing. And yeah, we're having a good time with everything for sure.
Do you think among your realm of runners, your caliber of runners that are still in the road scene, do you get the sense that attitudes are changing at all about trail and ultra and building a career there and competing there? What are your thoughts?
I kind of knew you would ask that question, to be honest. I kind of feel like that would have been slipped in. Yeah. Like, I mean, I do. I think it's like the trails are becoming way more competitive, and it's not a given if someone says, I want to make the, you know, like the transition from the roads to the trails and run really fast. You have really talented guys, and you have guys that work really hard. And you have guys that have really great results of those distances. And more importantly, people who are very like mentally sound and tough and just ready to commit and go to dark places. And I think, like if you're competing against someone like that, it's not going to be easy. Like for me, like I'm going into this race knowing that I have a lot of people to compete with and really a lot of high caliber athletes. And for me, I'm going to treat it as such. And I feel like it would be a disservice to really overlook just anyone on the top of that list.
You've talked about being based in Flagstaff and training there, so I'm guessing that had to have some influence. But how did you land on the Black Canyon 100K as your debut ultra?
So from what I've heard, it's a good ultra to kind of like dip your feet into a little bit, and like I don't know, like I mean, like me and James were having this exact conversation probably like 4 months ago, and I told him that I wanted to go into the ultra world, and he was like, yeah, like let's do it, like what races are available. And Black Canyon popped on the calendar in February. I'm like, that would be perfect. That's about 10 weeks after CIM. We're going to be really fit and really strong then. You know, like, and it's going to be a good opportunity. And then like, you know, like when I found out that like the course was also suitable to people kind of, I guess, like finding their experience in the ultra or maybe testing out an ultra, then I was more confident that like this was the right choice.
Would you, if you finish top 2 and get one of those golden tickets, would you race Western States this year?
As of now, probably not. Like I have my eyes set on the marathon in the spring. I'm going to be racing grandmas, so I'm signed up for that. So Really, I mean, I think this season, like this build for racing a 100K is going to prepare me for the marathon, is going to prepare me for the faster stuff.
Interesting.
When you talk about the 3K, 5K, 10K, anything shorter than a marathon too, I mean, like even the half, right? It's pretty much all aerobic. So, so like the work that you are putting in for over distance training will eventually pay off. It's just that you just have to be more specific towards your race as the race approaches. So for me, this is just kind of a building block and a series of necessary steps I need to take my best shot at running as well as I can in the trials in 2024.
I want to come back to this Instagram post you made. There's another great quote in there to close up this conversation. You say, "Can I truly predict how I'll feel at mile 50? Probably not, but the idea of not knowing is quite calming to me. Once you cross moments of truth, decisions become automatic and authentic, especially in uncharted territory." When I read that, I kind of got goosebumps. Can you talk about that more?
Yeah. I don't have a blueprint for this. So I'm not worried about the things that I can't control. Like for me, like I've been in situations where I come to a moment of truth of some sort, and I have to make a decision on what I'm going to do. And I think the only decision for me is moving forward. And if that means gritting it out or making the best decision I can at the time, I think that's the case, but I just don't know. So for me, I think those decisions are going to be snap. They're going to be authentic. They're going to be very real and in the moment, regardless of how I feel. And I'm really excited to get there. Like, I think that's one of the things that people miss when they talk about this sport. It's like, whenever you run a great race, or whenever you have a bad race, or whenever there's something with your running that has challenged you and you have either overcome it or you haven't quite overcome it, there is this memory that you have in that moment that's very authentic. And that's where the decision making happens. It's easy to be super confident and be like, yeah, like I'm going to crush this race. But if you can't answer those decisions in the moment, then you need to go back to the drawing board and do it again. So for me, there's no blueprint for this. It's just, let's see what I can do and try to be as authentic as possible in the process.
Well, John, I think I speak for a lot of folks when I say we're stoked that you're racing next weekend. We're excited that you're in the sport. Hopefully this isn't just a quick stop, but the beginning of a long career. And thanks for giving us so much perspective and dropping knowledge here today.
No, I mean, thank you for having me on. I'm super humbled to be welcome into the ultra community, and it's been a lot of fun, and I've gotten a lot of great support so far, and I'm just excited, man. It's going to be a really good day for sure.